Hey yo, hey yo, hey oh, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey oh, hey yo. Hello, this is Jerry Oldman. Today I wanted to talk to the what I'm calling the Firekeepers for the Sacred Space Gathering. You know, every gathering, an indigenous way, they'd make it into a sacred space. They'd cleanse it. So when the people go there, they can do what they're meant to do without distraction. Because we knew that, for instance, anger energy goes out into the air and it settles and, on the surfaces. So people would cleanse. So this is to give context for our firekeepers, the ones that are going to find the space for the gathering and then prepare it, smudge, brushing, circle of chairs. They're going to get it ready. So you'll be gathering the people. And the firekeepers are always the first ones there to make the fire. That's why I wanted to call the facilitators of Sacred Space Gathering firekeepers. So, of course, your job as a firekeeper is to make sure that the ones that are coming there understand about sacred space gathering protocols, that they understand how we're to be in this circle, how we're to be respectful to the ones that called us to the firekeepers and to the space we're sitting in, that we're going to sit in the circle. To have respect for the sacred bundle that's going to be there with the medicines and the teachings. Being indigenous means to be respectful. First off, to have respect for yourself, then have respect for the people, for the space. I remember my uncle telling me, they'd go hunting groups and picking berries. The whole community would go in the fall time, before Super Value and all those stores. And he said everybody would work together. And when they left, it was hard to see that even there it was so clean. They left it in its natural state. As a firekeeper, it's part of your job is to make sure the space, the sacred space, is the way that we found it or even better. So the protocol is to be respectful and also to be a participant, to take part. Even you can be a participant even if you don't speak. If you're just there to support brothers and sisters, or you're just beginning your healing journey. I call it sacred space gatherings for wounded warriors. And to create this way, I used a sweat lodge to guide me. And that's a sacred space that I created to help me in my development and my healing. And I've been going to Sweat Lodge probably since 1976, consistently, to keep myself healthy, to keep my mind, my body, and my spirit strong. So what we have today are wounded warriors. I use the term warrior because before we were all warriors. It was expected of us to step forward if there were people struggling and to help them. If there was danger, to go to be a defender, to be a steward of the land, to make sure that Mother Earth does not get harmed. That's a warrior. So when we're adults, we're all warriors. So what we have now are a multitude of wounded warriors. wounded, they're cut, their mind has heard negative messages. Their body may have been struck or assaulted. Their spirit has been so weakened they don't want to live or they don't care anymore. When I was wounded, I either became passive, just hide away, withdraw, isolate myself, or at times I'd lash out and get angry at people that didn't deserve it. And the biggest thing about my being wounded was I gave up. I didn't care anymore about what happened or what I was doing or what I wasn't doing. And because of that, my thinking was negative about myself, about life, about my people, about the planet Earth. I neglected my body. I would get overweight, underweight, my skin would be bad, it would just gave up. And the biggest part of it was I became unkind. There was times in there that I was kind. I'd go back to the teachings I was taught. But it was important. I didn't have that kindness in me. I wanted you to understand that there's a first cause for every one of our habits that we pick up in life. And habits means that we've picked up something and we're doing it. And we have a hard time to break it. Simple example, of course, is alcohol. If we get addicted to it, we have a hard time to stop. We just do anything for booze, seems like it. But the first cause for all of us First Nations and many other human beings is not exclusive to us. It's what I call the 6 R's that wounded or traumatized Indigenous people. And you'll learn about this. We all need to learn about this. So we don't think we're bad people. Yes, we made mistakes, but we're not bad people. We weren't born to be bad. That first cause of me being passive or aggressive or not caring. And I've been telling people about these 6 R's that the first one is racism. When people would look at me with disgust or, I could tell that they didn't like me. They didn't want to have anything to do with me. And I hadn't done anything to them. So I'd hear the negative words coming out of people describing me and my family, my community. So that cut me. I was a wounded warrior because of racism. I was a wounded warrior because of religion. I was put into a system where it was forced on me. For instance, in Easter, we'd go to Mass 40 days in a row. Early in the morning, we'd be in church. It wasn't a celebration to me, like when I go to a sweat lodge or go to a potlatch. Oh, it's exciting. It's filled with feeling and emotion. I didn't feel that in my experience with the church. Plus, there were people that hurt. There were sick cookies in there that hurt people, were mean-spirited. They cut people. Then there's a reservation, lands reserved for Indians. Many have been wounded there because it became like a lawless state to society. Our hereditary chiefs and leaders didn't have authority anymore. Somehow people bought into it. I don't know how. It's crazy that it happened, but it happened. So there's been thieving, violence, gossip, and things like that happen. But a lot of good things too. I don't want to be like a total downer. There's beautiful things that happen in Indigenous communities too. Then there's that residential school, that referred to as a breeding ground for dysfunction. Dysfunction means we're not working properly. We're not working up to our potential. The loneliness and the hunger for affection in residential schools and good food, and the fear from being beaten in front of people or humiliated or abused. But just the separation from family was a big cut, big wound. So that caused me to turn to alcohol because I wasn't happy with my life at the time. I started drinking. So that's the residential school. Then there's the RCM police. We've probably, all Indigenous people have had issues with police. But like everything in life, just because one bad apple, we tend to want to condemn all the police. I myself have met wonderful police officers that want to be of service to the people. But we have been wounded by them. Then the final R is removal, the 60 scoop. Children were taken and scattered all throughout the world, in Canada and in North America, United States, and Western Europe. Indigenous kids removed from their culture, their language, their ways that was already impacted. Even when I lived in the reserve, I didn't see it. It wasn't there. So those are the wounding. That's the first cause for many of us being negative about ourselves, our mind and our body and our spirit. And as a result, we're messed up emotionally with our feelings. When we don't deal with negative emotions, often it leads to destruction, destructive action, behavior, words, thinking. We hurt people, we hurt ourselves. And all of that happening, we all look for escape. We look for distraction. Many turn to alcohol and eventually to drugs, prescription drugs, gambling. Nowadays, games, computer, Facebook, things that we just don't have to think about our life anymore. We're distracted. And of course, that brings harm to ourselves, our relationships, and our community. That's where we basically are today. That's why sacred space gathering, where we can come together, start to look at ourselves, start to learn how to speak in a respectful manner. Firekeeper, that's your job, is to remind people to be firm and patient with our brothers and sisters that come to sacred space. Many of them, it's the first time they've sat in ceremony or used a hand drum or used medicine or talked honestly about their feelings. Because it's sacred space, there's going to be a topic picked. Every meeting will be a different topic. One meeting, gathering, maybe we'll talk about love. Maybe we'll talk about family. We'll talk about anger and how that has played a part in our life. So the firekeeper is to get that out of the sacred bundle. Then give the talking stick or the feather or the stone, whatever implement you use, to the elder in the group. Whoever it is, whoever's oldest, they start. And then they pass that. Once they've shared about what they've been through or what's going on with them. And encourage them to talk and speak statements where they don't have to explain, but just say as it is. Once they're done, they pass a talking stick or feather or stone, and it goes around the whole circle. Of course, this is after you do the opening prayer, opening song, and the first reading, but when it comes to the actual circle, You have patience, and everybody have patience. I'm going to suggest to people, if there's over 12 people, you have two groups so that people can share without feeling pressured. No larger than 12 in the circle. And that's be part of your job to watch and monitor that. And let them know to talk in statements and to be respectful of time so they don't go on and on and on. Because I tend to do that. People tend to do that. Because sacred space gatherings is about getting onto the road of healing. Not expecting to get healed at that one gathering, but no, this is a process and it might take meeting, gathering, after gathering to free ourselves of negativity. Can be done. We can do this. So you be firm as a firekeeper and let them know if they're talking and they're talking about everything else but their problem, you'll go stand behind them, and that's a sign that they must pass on the talking stick or the feather or the stone. So you're to have patience, and I encourage firekeepers to have support. Do your best to have someone be with you to share the duties of firekeeping. And if it's not possible, that's okay. You do your best. Remind yourself and the wounded warriors that healing is a road. That we must be going through this constantly throughout our life, because healing means to make original again. Like if you get cut, you put medicine in there, you get stitched up and you bandage it. Then it's going to become original. You might have a scar, but it's okay. You can still use it. Whereas if you don't treat that wound, it festers and you might lose your hand, your arm. You get blood poisoning because the poison's in you. And our negativity that we take on is in us, and that's a poison too. And that's what sacred space is. Gathering by gathering, letting that out, letting it go. Free yourself. So I want to remind us, firekeepers, don't think of this as therapy, but as a coming onto the healing journey with other wounded warriors, brothers and sisters, starting to help each other carry the weight of what we've been through and free ourselves so we can follow the meaning of life, which is to find our gift, whatever it is, if it's music, art, healing. You could be a doctor, dentist, massage therapist, or a builder, or a mechanic, somebody that fixes things that break down, to find your gift and to use it and to feel purpose. That's my dream for a sacred space gathering, that people find themselves there, that they let go and put down and say goodbye to the things that wounded them. They learn about that wonderful experience of forgiving people, which means you let them go. You don't carry like a racist. When somebody is racist to me, I say to myself, hey, you keep that. That's yours. That's not mine. I'm not going to carry that. So I won't fight them. I won't argue with them. I'll just say in my mind, you keep that. But if they want to engage a conversation with me, I'll listen and I'll talk. I'll be respectful. Fighting's not going to stop racism. But we don't give them power. We all need healing throughout our life. My prayers and all the sweat lodges I've done for a year every Sunday to start working on this has been that there be healers and teachers in our lives for the rest of our life. That we also start to help people to heal, and we teach people about respect, about protocols, and we start to embrace our identity of who we are. So we don't have to be in a constant defense, but we just accept who we are and we live the way we want to live, as long as it's respectful and doesn't hurt other people. That's our job as firekeeper, to call the people. help them learn about respect, to gain knowledge, to gain skills in talking about feelings. As human beings, that's the biggest thing that we need to learn, is how to communicate with people when we're angry, or we're hurting, or we're ashamed, or we're happy, so we can share life with other human beings. I watch and I see people swear at each other and put each other down in public, and I know that's not indigenous. It's not helping anyone. So you come to a sacred space, you learn how to talk in a respectful manner. Even how you sit. I went to Firekeepers to remind everybody, sit like an eagle. Sit straight. Be proud of your people and where you're from. When you walk, walk with purpose. Don't drag your feet. Walk like the proud indigenous person you are, from the beautiful people you come from, that walked on this part of Mother Earth for thousands of years and respected this earth. And there was always food here. We're going back to that. One of my elders told me the sleeping giant is going to wake up. And that means our way of life, our culture, is going to wake up again. And he says, then we'll be okay. We'll be respectful. We'll be generous. We'll have a good sense of humor. We'll be helpful. We won't be part of the problem. We'll be part of the solution. So I'm really thankful that people, for the firekeepers that step up. And I just want to remind you, it's about respect. It's about generosity. It's about love. It's about knowledge. It's about culture and tradition. So you be patient. And you find a way to fix yourself if you get something happens to you at Sacred Space Gathering. Because we're having wounded warriors coming to us. And of course, they're going to be letting it out. Sometimes they might harm people or harm themselves. So you have to be careful. So you go out and you do your best. That's what I'm saying. And don't be, people say, oh yeah, that's a healing circle or whatever. Actually, it's a circle of welcoming people to healing, to the healing road, to the healing path. Because healing is ongoing. And sometimes the wound is so big we need others to help us. And that's where I'd encourage you, firekeepers, at times if there's healers in your community, invite them sometimes. But remind the brothers and sisters that there's a healer coming if you want work to be done. So that it doesn't have to be guessing or anything. They come in and you can say yes to the healer, yes, 3 of them want work done. Then the other ones witness it and support those ones going through healing. And, also invite knowledge keepers, people that know about medicines, about music, about art, about food, traditionalists. Invite them to come and share too. Don't do this all by yourself, firekeeper. Have a buddy system. So that's what I wanted to say to you today, and I hope it makes sense to you, but I'm going to talk to you, firekeepers. The plan is that we can talk on the phone or Zoom once in a while as you go through this experience. My wish is that this spreads like fire all across Turtle Island to help the ones that want it in this way. They become accessible to them. So I wish you many success stories on your journey of being a firekeeper. Thank you.